Geography Chapter 6 Major Landforms of the Earth. The Earth's surface is not the same everywhere. It is highly uneven. It has hills, valleys, mountains, plateaus, and plains. All these features can be found under the sea too. These are termed as relief features or landforms. So children, what are landforms? Landforms are natural, geographical or physical features on the Earth's surface. Collectively, these include mountain, plateau and plains, coastal plains, desert and islands. These landforms play a major role in deciding the weather, climate, plants and animals found in a region. The Earth's surface is constantly changing through forces in nature. Though the process is gradual and hardly comes to our notice, but this change is always taking place. The landforms on the Earth's surface are created by two types of major forces. The first type of force is called internal forces or tectonic forces, and the second type of forces is called external forces or gradational forces. What are internal forces? Internal forces or tectonic forces originate within the earth. They create irregularities and are responsible for the upliftment and sinking of the earth's surface. They may be continent building or mountain building forces. What are external forces or gradational forces? The elements of nature like running water, moving ice and wind are continuously wearing down and rebuilding the land surface. They reshape and modify the landforms. This is also known as erosion, which removes material from one place and deposits it at another by the process of deposition. So children, both internal and external processes result in the formation of three major types of landforms: mountains, plateaus and plains. So let's learn about the first landform of the earth, mountains. What are mountains? Mountains are conical landmass much higher, thousands of meters above the land surface. These are solid rocky masses present in long chain. The study of mountains is called orography. What are peaks? The tips of mountains are called peaks. Few examples of peaks are Kilimanjaro in East Africa, Jura Mountains in Europe and Himalayas. What are mountain chain? A mountain chain is made up of several parallel long and narrow mountains. The examples of mountain chains are Andes Mountains in South America, Rocky Mountains in North America, Himalayas in India, etc. What are glaciers? Most of the world's highest mountains have very cold climate. These mountains have large rivers of ice called glaciers. Glaciers are the main source of water for the rivers. Few examples of glaciers are Gangotri, Siachen glaciers, etc. They all are situated in the Himalayas. Types of mountains. Mountains are classified on the basis on the mode of formation. Thus, mountains are of four types: fold mountains, block mountains, volcanic mountains, and residual mountains. What are fold mountains? When a part of the earth's surface is pushed up from opposite directions, wrinkles or folds are formed. These are formed when the earth's crust bends due to the movement of the earth. The upraised part of the fold is called anticline and the downward fold is called syncline. Examples of fold mountains are Aravalli Mountains in India are the oldest fold mountains in the world. These mountains are formed over 250 million years ago and has gentle slopes and low altitude. So these are old fold mountains. The Alps and Himalayas are young fold mountains because they are formed comparatively recently, about 25 million years ago. These mountains are rugged and lofty. These are world's highest mountain range. What are block mountains? Block mountains are formed when cracks or faults occur in the earth's crust and the land between the cracks sinks, leaving upstanding blocks on either side. These cracks are called faults. Block mountains are also called fault block mountains. Block mountains are huge blocks like feathers with flat top and steep slopes. Block mountains also formed Rift Valley. So what is a Rift Valley? When two faults are close together, the chunk of crust between them can sometimes collapse to form Rift Valley. The uplift and part of the land is called horst and the subsided part is called graben. Example of block mountains are the Marble Rock at Jabalpur in India, Salt Range in Pakistan, the Rhine Valley, etc. What are volcanic mountains? Volcanic mountains are formed as a result of volcanic activity. Molten lava erupts from opening in the earth's crust, and on reaching the surface, it cools and hardens gradually with the passage of time. As layers of lava pile up around the opening, gradually a mountain is formed. Examples of volcanic mountains are Mount Fusiyama in Japan, Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, etc. Mauna Kea of Hawaii is a volcanic mountain. Its height is 10,205 meters from the ocean floor, which makes it higher than the Everest. But half of it is submerged underwater. That is why Everest is the highest mountain of the world. What are residual mountains? These mountains are formed out of the existing mountains, that is, fold, block, or volcanic mountains. These mountains are the result of external forces. High mountains are worn down by the various agents of erosion and denudation activities such as wind, water, glacier, waves, etc. Their base is exposed due to erosional process. The remaining part of this mountain is known as residual mountains. Example of such mountains are Catskill Mountains in New York, Nilgiri and Rajmahal Hills of India, etc. Children, mountains are very important to us. They shape and influence our life to a great extent because they are helpful to us in many ways. Mountains are a storehouse of fresh water. Several glaciers are found on high peaks of mountains. These glaciers are the source of most of the perennial rivers of the world. There are two types of rivers, perennial rivers and seasonal rivers. Perennial rivers have water throughout the year, and seasonal rivers are the rivers which flow only in the rainy season and remain dry mostly. Mountains help in bringing rain. When moisture-laden winds are forced upward on the mountain side, condensation takes place. This causes relief rainfall. They protect the lands adjoining them by acting as barrier against cold or hot winds. Mountains are rich storehouses of flora and fauna. The slopes of mountains have thick forests which provide several products like timber, medicines, gum, resins, etc. Many mountains have rich reserves of valuable minerals. The steep slopes provide sites for building dams and producing hydroelectricity. The cool climate and scenic beauty, the adventure sports like skiing, river rafting, paragliding are a great attraction for tourists.